The day the bees came home, the auditorium lights blazed like a solar flare, and the dean's voice crackled over the microphone. Dr. Marisol Vega, your proposal is untenable. The room erupted in polite applause, but the laughter that followed was anything but polite. My colleagues slammed their notebooks shut, their smiles sharp as knives. I felt the heat of 1,000 eyes as a senior professor leaned over and whispered, "You've made a fool of yourself, Marisol. You'll never be taken seriously again." In that instant, my life splintered, my reputation, my career, my very identity, into 1,000 shards that glittered with humiliation. I left the stage that night with my research folder clutched to my chest, the sting of public dismissal still fresh. My family's reaction was immediate and brutal. At dinner, my mother's fork clanged against the plate and she said, "You think you can fix the world with some beehives? You're an embarrassment, Marisol. Go back to nursing or whatever you're good at." My brother snorted, "Yeah, why not chase a rainbow? Why don't we all just quit and become poets?" Their words were a chorus of derision, and the house echoed with the sentiment that my dream was nothing but a ridiculous hobby. I could have stayed lost in that house of scorn, but the sting of their doubt ignited something fierce inside me. I packed a single suitcase, left the only town that ever knew my name, and vowed to prove that a ridiculous idea could rewrite the very fabric of a city. The first rooftop I claimed was a cracked, graffiti-splattered terrace in the industrial district, a place where pigeons ruled and the concrete seemed to sigh under the weight of neglect. I set up my first hive with trembling hands as if I were cradling a fragile secret. Neighbors stared, muttering, "She's talking to bugs now." I laughed with them because laughter was the only language they understood. Day after day, I tended to the colonies, measured pollen loads, and recorded the tiny fluctuations of temperature that meant life or death for the bees. I published a modest paper on how urban hives could boost pollination in vacant lots. The same peers who had expelled me began to send polite emails, asking for data, asking for permission to cite my work. Their tone was no longer hostile, it was curious, tinged with a reluctant admiration I could taste like copper on my tongue. But the real breakthrough came when the city council, desperate to revitalize a blighted neighborhood, approached me. They wanted a solution that didn't involve expensive infrastructure or endless paperwork. I proposed a network of rooftop hives paired with community gardens, each garden designed to attract native pollinators and provide food for the bees. The council agreed, and a pilot began on a 3-block stretch of abandoned warehouses. Within weeks, the airborne buzz grew louder. Wildflowers burst through cracked pavement, hummingbirds flitted between blossoms, and the once dead streets hummed with life. Residents who had once stared at the beehives with contempt now stopped to watch the honey-laden frames, their eyes reflecting an awe I had never imagined they could feel. Children gathered honey, teachers used the gardens as living classrooms, and the city's air seemed cleaner, richer, more hopeful. The media caught wind of it. Headlines shouted from mockery to miracle. The biologist who saved a city. I was invited to speak on national programs, to write op-eds, to sit on panels that charted the future of urban ecosystems. Each success was a brick laid over the foundation of that first humiliating dismissal. 4 years later, I received an invitation that made my heart race, a reunion dinner at the family home. My mother had called, her voice softer than I remembered. "We'd like you to come home for one night, Marisol. The whole family will be there." I hesitated, remembering the sting of their words, the weight of their expectations, but I also remembered the buzzing chorus of bees that had become my anthem. I said yes. The house smelled of cinnamon and old wood the moment I stepped through the front door, a familiar comfort that wrapped around me like a warm blanket. My mother greeted me, eyes watery, and my brother clasped my hand, still the same rough palms but with an unfamiliar tremor of respect. After dinner, my aunt ushered us out onto the back patio, where the night air was thick with the scent of jasmine. A large wooden crate sat in the middle of the yard, its lid lifted, revealing dozens of gleaming honeycomb frames, each dripping with golden honey. My cousins whispered, "Is that real honey?" I lifted a frame, turned it toward the lantern light, and let the honey cascade onto a spoon. Then, from the shadowed edge of the garden, a swarm of bees emerged, their bodies shimmering like tiny suns. They swarmed around the frames, around our heads, humming a serene, deliberate tune. I could see the awe in my mother's eyes, the shift in my brother's expression, no longer mockery, but a deep, undeniable recognition. My uncle, who had always been the loudest critic, cleared his throat. "Marisol," he began, his voice trembling, "the city council, they spoke about your work. They said you turned a wasteland into a sanctuary. We were wrong." We judged you without seeing the world you were trying to heal. My mother stepped forward, her hands clasped. You left us with shame, with a daughter we thought we'd lost, but look at you now, your bees have come home, and they bring with them a promise of renewal. I am sorry for the bitterness I fed you, for the dreams I tried to crush. You taught us that even the smallest creature can change a whole world. I felt a surge of emotion that was not triumph alone, but gratitude. The bees settled on my outstretched hand, their legs tickling my skin. I whispered, they never quit, neither did I. The night stretched on, and we sat together under the canopy of stars, the soft hum of the hive the soundtrack to our renewed bond. My family asked questions about the science, about the challenges, about the future. I answered with the same clarity that once earned me scorn, now transformed into a bridge between my world and theirs. When the evening concluded, I walked back to the car, the scent of honey still clinging to my clothes. I glanced at the house, its windows glowing warmly, and realized something profound. The greatest restoration I had ever achieved was not of soil and flora, but of trust and belonging. Driving away, the city lights flickered like fireflies, each one a reminder that ecosystems, whether urban or familial, thrive on patience, perseverance, and an unwavering belief that even the most ridiculous ideas can blossom into miracles. The bees will keep humming, and my family will keep remembering the day they witnessed a dream that once seemed absurd turn into a living, breathing testament to hope. And in that memory, the ledger of karma is balanced, not with vengeance, but with love, humility, and the sweetest taste of redemption.